I am so excited that we have all three of you guys here together. And I think it's a little bit of a reunion for you guys as well. So I would love to start by letting each of you introduce yourself, how you work together, and where you are today. Kim, can we start with you?
Yeah. Kim Hanna, and I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I work at children's therapy team. And I met Amanda. I'm really bad with timelines here. What year was it, Amanda? 2005?
That was, yeah, probably 2004.
Yep.
First time we met. Yeah.
And Karen. Hey, Karen. I feel like I haven't seen you
Hi.
forever. And you look just like your sister, by the way.
It's funny. Thanks.
Yeah, it's great. And Karen shortly after, and then we started our journey to, trying to make some change and make a difference in Ukraine regarding orphans with disabilities.
Yeah.
So that was a long time ago. And since then, we all have, kids from there. And as you know, and currently, we're just trying to keep up with all the things going on in Ukraine. Amanda has really good communication with one of her children's biological family. And we're able to, we just sent this week a lot of supplies, medical supplies, um, for the people there. We've been able to financially support uh, the orphanage that we worked directly with, just to help them with transportation, getting
Mm.
the kids from one place to another to keep them safe during all this. And Amanda can speak in more detail to that, but it feels good to be doing something since we can't physically go there.
Mhm.
It feels good to be helping some way. And I feel like our community in Northwest Arkansas, and really we receive supplies from everywhere, has been so huge. People just want to do something to help. It
Mm.
feels like such a helpless situation that it's nice to be able to do something. We got a video from some of Amanda's contacts about they were able to build like a community shower with hot water, which we take for granted here. But when you saw how excited they were about that shower, that was honestly not great,
Yeah.
but they were so excited about it. It definitely puts things in perspective,
Mhm. Yeah.
like we talked about
Yeah.
with you guys. Sorry, I might have rambled a little too long there.
No, no, not at all. So Amanda, tell us about your contacts. Like, how are you getting stuff into the Ukraine? And then, of course, introduce yourself and all of that good stuff too.
Yeah. So I'm Amanda Clark, and all of this really started, it's 20 years ago this month that we adopted two boys from Ukraine and met who would become our daughter later on. And so we came home with the boys. They both had cerebral palsy. And so we immediately were kind of entered into the world of disability, even though we didn't even realize it then. Because a lot of the doctors were saying they just had delays and they would catch up. And I kept thinking, oh, I'm getting a peek into this world that I never knew about. And then there was one day that I remember it hitting me like a ton of bricks that like, no, I am this world. Like this is not going away. This is who I am and this is who we are. So but we went back about 3.5 years later was when we went back and adopted our daughter. There was just kind of a string of events that where she was going to get adopted by another family and it fell through. And so we went back and got her. And that was about the same time that I met Kim, is when we decided that we were going to go back and get her. And so we traveled back, and I always it made me a little guilty that she was in the orphanage about 3.5 years older, that longer than my sons. Like, she was 5.5 years old by the time we got to her, and just wondering, why did that happen? Why did she have to stay for so long? But it's been amazing over these years since then that we've watched everything unfold, which it really was the beginning of a lot of things. Like I said, I didn't know Kim before then. And so I had met Kim by that time. We travel, we go and adopt her. And they want to know, because we bring pictures of our kids, our boys, and they cannot believe that these are the same boys that we left with, because in their mind, they should be just in a bed and not doing anything. And like, they shouldn't, and we have pictures of them just in our family, and we go and do family things, and we have all kinds of candid photos of places we've been and things that they do. And they're just doing really great. And they want to know, like, what did you do with them? And how are you going to help Lena? We want to know how to rehabilitate the kids that are here, like you have in the US. And so I came home immediately, talked to Kim, started talking about going back over, or at that point we were just going to try to send materials, but eventually it turned into, well, why don't we just go? So in 4 months later, after being home with Lena back in Ukraine, and at that point Kim had asked around at the clinic, and Karen was like, I want to go. And so the three of us went back, and that really sparked a lot of things, and that it's began trips where we would have a relationship with the orphanage, where a therapist would go in and help and teach the caregivers, and really did, like, we came alongside them and just tried to make it a partnership. And even though they were doing things that seemed odd to us and way backwards and just scary at times, we had to learn why. And a lot of times it was because they really were short staffed, and they just didn't have the ability, or they just didn't know, they didn't understand, or it's a cultural thing. And we realized, wait a minute, 50 years ago in our towns and cities here, we did the exact same thing. It's just that there's a progression. And so we just kind of came alongside them and learned from them, and then taught them, and they learned from us. And it really, those trips, we fostered a lot of relationships. We also branched out to other orphanages and other I guess early intervention programs, and worked with kids with families that had older kids. And then through that, our therapist also, we talked about how Kim and Karen, they ended up going back and adopting kids. And so several therapists, there's 10 kids total now that have been adopted from that orphanage that now live in this area. And then Karen now lives in Texas, and then there's one that lives in Oklahoma. But we have been able to watch all of these adoptions. So it's just, you never know, why things happen in the order they do. But in retrospect, it's like really amazing to kind of look back at that thread and see that, that adoption happened exactly when it was supposed to. So that's kind of where we are up to this point. We actually had scheduled trips back during COVID that we had to cancel. So it's been a long time since we've been able to go back to Ukraine, because the area that we traveled to most has been affected by the war that's been there since 2014. I did go back in 2019 because the front line was stable enough that I hadn't moved in a long time. So I took my oldest son back, and we got to spend a lot of time with his birth family. And it was really, really, really nice to be back. And so we can't wait to go back again. But yeah, we've been able to stay in close contact with his birth family. We helped them get evacuated to Western Ukraine. We've had times when like our main facilitator, and then her sister is also a translator for us. So we've had some very difficult days when we knew that they were in danger. Olga, our main facilitator, and she facilitated all the adoption. She does all of our trip arrangements. She's like kind of this one woman, like amazing, like person that she does all the travel, all of that. But she and her husband were in Bucha. And so they were stuck in a basement underground for 3 weeks, and without electricity or heat or water, and they were running out of food, and they couldn't leave because they knew that people were being killed if they left. And so they eventually were able to get out through a humanitarian corridor that opened up. And it was very, very, very dangerous that they left when they did, because so many of those people ended up getting killed. And they saw a lot of people that had been killed on their way out. But they are fortunately safe in Lviv now. And then her sister, we were able to help her get out too. And her husband was actually at the Kramatorsk train station when it was hit. So we've actually had people on the ground in all of these places that we turn on the TV and see every day, which has just been so horrific to know that, that somebody you love is sitting in a basement and freezing, and they don't know when they're going to get out. It's been really difficult. But at the same time, now we're very, very, very happy to know that they're as safe as they can be. There's no safe spot in Ukraine right now, but we feel like the people that we have connection with are in a safe place, and that we've been able to help them in some way. And we help the orphanage the orphans out, and they're also in Western Ukraine. So that's all. Well, we didn't, I can't say we helped them. We helped them once they got out, the orphans. Once they got out and got where they are, we've been able to support them. But
I think this is an amazing legacy. Like you said, Amanda, 20 years ago is when you first went and adopted the boys. And then you guys, the fabulous trio, went back 5 years later, and then you kept going back. So there are 10 orphans in Northwest Arkansas, but there are hundreds of orphans that have been impacted by you guys. And even now, through the war, you're constantly paying it back and investing in Ukraine. You guys are just heroes.
It's so felt good to actually be able to feel like we could do just something, anything, but just sit and watch it on TV. So we're very thankful to have that avenue to be able to help.
And I remember, I think I hadn't met Kim in person when I lived in Arkansas, but Amanda, you and I had met maybe once or twice. Karen was the person that I knew the best. And that's why the story kind of started off with Karen. And then she was like, you really need to talk to Kim and Amanda because they were really the driving forces. But Karen, I still remember when we met, Lance was really little. And I remember the first question I asked Karen was, we were around a dinner table and Lance was really small, just a couple years old. And when we were having dinner, he went like this. Do you remember? And Karen just went, Lance, hands down, hands down. And he was like, okay. And then his hands went back up. And I was like, Karen, why is he doing that? And I remember how you described it to me. Will you share?
Sure. So I'm Karen Hairston, and I'm now in Texas, I was raised in Texas, but lived in Northwest Arkansas for a very special time, and came back. But yes, that story was, well, the orphans, as Kim and Amanda can testify, would just hold their hands back to be fed around the tables, and weren't allowed to grab the spoon, at least in the orphanages we were in. And so they developed that habit of just, opening your mouth, hands back. And so, of course, we were training Lance and our kids to use their hands to help, to feed themselves and to feel like it's okay and safe to do that. So, yeah, I had actually forgotten about that. So it's funny that you bring it back up. Yeah, what's funny too is Emily, he was almost 3 when we adopted him, but he was so tiny. He probably looked, 2 to remembrance. And so that was a short period after we adopted him. But yeah, because he was 18 pounds when we first adopted him at almost 3.
Yeah.
And that was probably after we'd been feeding him the 5.5 weeks we'd been there for the adoption too. So, because we were trying to teach him, okay, yogurt and bananas and, lots of different things instead of the broth with pieces of bread in it and things that, because they had very little funding. So yeah, that was their primary source of food before then. So, yeah, it's wild.
Amanda, were you going to say something?
No, I remember the same thing with my kids. Like, if you moved too fast with the spoon with Dima, he would flinch. I think he had been hit with the spoon is probably why they put their hands up, is because if they would reach for it, they would smack their hands. But the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. We were just
very get it in as quickly as possible because there were a lot of mouths to be fed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about this the other day because I have a baby now, and we were talking about bottles and stuff, and they would take this bottle with the nipple. They had kind of cut the end off of it so it would flow more freely, and so they would take it around and they would put it in one of the children's mouths, and they could, with their hands back, and they could have as much liquid out of that bottle for as long as they could suck without taking air. So they would suck, and then as soon as they were like, they would take it to the next kid. And so to this day, Mira can suck down a whole cup of something without taking
Wow.
Lex too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So we were feeding the baby, and we were like, oh, she breathes a lot while she's drinking. And it was like, for when Mira was there, it was like a hot tea kind of drink that she would suck down. So anyway, so I had forgotten about that too, about this part.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's so right.
Lance still loves hot tea.
Yeah, does he?
Yes. Hot tea. And coffee.
And coffee. I really need a recent video of him. That would be so great. It would make my day.
Yeah. It's so nice to see all three of you. I just miss you guys. But I will send it.
What's the last time the three of you guys were together or chatted?
I think it's when we met and took a picture, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what year was that?
That was probably 2014 or 15, because it was after, I think, the war had started. And so we wanted to do something, like kind of send something back, because we felt like we couldn't travel to there. And we wanted just to encourage them somehow. So we got all of our kids together, and Karen was going to be in town. And so we're like, this is the perfect time. But in their blue and white, or their blue and yellow outfits, and dressed them all up and took a picture. Yeah.
Amanda, I don't think I have that picture. I have a picture of the group of you guys, but that was earlier, right?
Right. And actually, Karen, I think you guys came in later and we had you meet and take pictures, because I think I added his picture in. Yeah.
I think you did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah, I'll have to send that to you. Yeah, it's a picture of all the kids.
Yeah, I would love that, especially with the blue and yellow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this book is called The Spare Room, and it's all about this idea of social legacy, right? Which is the intersection of what you uniquely have to offer and the offense against which you want to direct your resources, capabilities, skills, and experience. I'm curious, how would you guys each define your social legacy? Like if you were to say in one line, this is the legacy that we've been able to leave behind. Big question, and I didn't give you any preparation.
Oh. That's a hard one.
Yeah, it is.
Take your time. We can always cut.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm legacy is the right way, but what I want to pass on to my children and people I work with or encounter, or just is that if you see a problem, like start with one thing. You see this overwhelming problem in Ukraine or wherever, and it's like we can't do anything to help that. But you know what? You can try to get money there so they can make a shower. You can do one thing. And so after we went to Ukraine the first time, and it was like so overwhelming, because this was like, whoa, this is like a cultural change. This isn't like us teaching caretakers how to work with children with special needs. This is like years, decades. That it's going to take a long time to make this change. But we just took the mindset of, we're just going to go focus on that room. And if we help one child get adopted or change one worker's perception of disability, then we've been successful. So that's more than one sentence, but start with one thing.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. What about you guys, Amanda and Karen?
I think that it's, like I said, the perspective changes everything, because you don't necessarily know what in the moment, like Kim said, you just have to act, even though you think you're just one person. What in my life, it's that one little act. I've met other people that have been very instrumental. Kim was one of them. Kim was like, we can do this. And she had skills that I didn't have that made things possible that I couldn't do. Olga in Ukraine, she has helped us with everything that we've done there. She's been a huge game changer. She also does birth family searches for numerous families that have adopted from Ukraine. Through those searches right now, there are tons of families that have gotten out of the places where they are, which are very they're in the middle of where the fighting is, and they've been able to evacuate out, some of out of the country, some in other places into Ukraine. But all of those people are out because she made a connection to a birth family and a person in America that then they have a relationship, and because of that relationship, they were helped. And then the orphanage director, and Antoshka and Kramatorsk, he has been able to advocate after he saw our kids and saw what was possible. Him and other orphanage directors that we've actually worked with in other orphanages bound together and have advocated for the orphans. And so they've actually helped to create a new degree of occupational therapy in Ukraine. They've helped to advocate to move all of the kids out of special needs kids and other kids more into group type situations where they live actually in a home with a family. And then they're trying to, after that is all complete, they're turning the orphanages into therapy centers, modeling them similar to what we do here with our clinic. So I could have not done but one small piece of that, but that's all you ever have to do. Because once you take that first step, you meet other people that are able to help you basically bring your ideas to fruition. And it's been amazing. Yeah.
I love that. There are two thoughts there. One is the reason I like this concept of social legacy so much is instead of trying to convince people and tell them that this is the cause they should care the most about, when you're so crystal clear in your own social legacy, you find like-minded people and you create a tribe. I mean, you guys are like literally the ultimate sorority. This group of what you've been able to create, because it's amplifying. And that's the second thought that comes to mind, Amanda, as I listen to you, is you're right. As Kim said, it's just, you said start with one thing. And then Amanda, you were saying it's just one person. But when you find a collective power and then you start amplifying it, look at the impact the three of you guys have been able to have. I mean, that's a legacy I think anybody would be proud of. And you're not even at the end of your life thinking back. It's like you guys did that in your 20s and 30s. It is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I want to be clear to not take too much credit, Emily, but I mean, I did get to go with them on several trips and I loved it and I helped a lot, but Kim and Amanda definitely were the primary workhorses here. And I would love to join you on some more trips. They since, which they have not said, also have gone to several other countries. So they should tell you about that. But for my social legacy, it's so hard because there's so many different areas of life. But I think just seeing each person as an important, like, it's the imago Dei of what I say. It's that each person is created for a reason with a purpose, and that just taking the time to appreciate them and doing what you can to give them that value, no matter where they are in life or what needs they have or where they come from. Hopefully that will be my social legacy, is being known as a person who does that to make a difference wherever I can. So that's.
I just got goosebumps. You guys are amazing.
You did want to take. Can I take Karen's? I would like to take that one.
Yeah.
I want that.
Y'all's were great. What are you talking about? And they're all true.
Yeah, and because of Karen, like, we're connected to you now, and like I feel like our story can go to people in places that it hasn't prior to. So I'm very thankful and grateful for that. It's been huge.
Oh my gosh, I would love to support even more. Like if you guys, if and when you're able to go back, I'd love to volunteer and come help too. I don't have any background in physical therapy, but maybe I can help you lug equipment.
You have language skills, maybe not in Ukraine, but some of the other countries
that
they could use.
So what other countries have you amplified into?
I think the biggest right now is Guatemala. I have a lot of connections there and I've had several trips there. One of the reasons it's just so easy to get there, from here. But we also have gone to Rwanda numerous times, and
China.
China kind of transformed into this whole losing some employees to join the team in China. So, which it was fantastic. So, but it's a little bit harder to get in and get things done in China. But we have been successful in a couple of places. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Your heart is still sort of in Ukraine. Is there anything you guys wanted to share in terms of, the loved ones you guys have there, how you're seeing everything that's unfolding right now?
I think just that I have been so impressed with the way our media and Americans have felt about Ukraine, because for me, so much of the time over the last few years, or since we adopted the boys, it's always been, where is Ukraine? Like, is that part of Russia? Like, I don't think I'll ever get that question again, like ever. But I think that, it is I recognize it's a place very near and dear to me, but for other people, it's someplace they've never been. They don't even know where it is. But they're just, so many people have just been so caring and so thoughtful about what's going on there. And thankfully we've been able, through our own government and other governments, have been able to support them and help them and really help them, because they feel like this is a fighter to the death. Like they are not going to survive under that rule. And so they, to be able to assist them, but it's so sad. It's awful to have to do that. You just want to be over with and there to be peace. But at the same time, I want them to be able to truly live in peace, and not under the rule of somebody else, or under just the atrocities that are happening right now. So just keep continuing to pray for them, and that this all ends soon.
Yeah. I think it's, as people go kind of into other countries, and we've seen what options really are not available for orphans as far as being refugees or going across the border or whatever. It just makes me think, oh, there's so much to be done. We've been so focused on Ukraine, but all those bordering countries have the same issues. And some of the things to make those children's lives better and make them, more adoptable or whatever, the things you can do really aren't that hard. And so I feel like that. I haven't even shared this with Amanda, and we see each other every day. It's like, I feel like we're going to start hearing about these other countries that are like, we went into this orphanage, or we saw this happening, or all these kids are locked in this basement, or whatever, and it's probably just going to open up more opportunities, which is really a good thing, because things are coming to light, and there are groups, whether it's us or another group or whatever, that could go in and help. So I'm excited and scared to see what we learn as things settle in Ukraine a little bit. Yeah. Yep.
I have been I was very thankful that Amanda was able to update me, because I've been trying to search for the people that we knew, that I haven't been able to keep up with as well. So it was really nice to talk to Amanda and catch up on where they are, that they're alive, and that, where the orphans are. Because I keep going, where are all the orphans? Because obviously Kramatorsk is not in a good place, as well as lots of other places. So it was good to hear that. And I was very thankful to hear that the people that I remember the most are still there. So
still alive. I know that some of the texts we were getting from that Amanda and different people were receiving from people we know were like, they would just text, "I'm alive," because they didn't have electricity or anything to charge their phones or anything. So it was like there was a time span there where it was just like, we're still alive. Oh, okay.
I know. It was really hard to do just normal things, because, like you would be doing something. I'm like, Olga's stuck in a basement and she's cold and she doesn't have food. And then 8 hours later, Olga's stuck in a basement and she's cold and she doesn't have food. And then, just for days like that, like everything I was doing, I just kept thinking back, she's stuck in a basement and she doesn't have food and she's cold.
Right.
Like it's really hard. But, we're just so thankful that there were ways out. And she told us, she was like, there's no way we got out of there without your prayers, because we shouldn't be alive. It shouldn't have happened. We shouldn't have been able to get out. And so they were very thankful. So sometimes when you think that's the only thing you can do, that's what what makes a difference. So
yeah.
Good.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything, two questions. and you guys can pick either one or both. Is there anything that you would want people to know about Ukraine that you feel they may not? That's one question. And then the other one is, after listening, if people want to get involved, what could they do in terms of taking action to make a difference and join you guys?
I'll say something about Ukraine that people might not know. That, for one, the people, and again, it's been longer that haven't been there than Amanda and Kim, but not by too much since the wars and everything. Is that the people there are very kind. They look harsh, and they carry this serious demeanor, but they're very kind and loving. And once they see that you're helping, that they like to join. They just haven't had the exposure that we've had. Like Amanda was saying, the head of the orphanage, once he saw the opportunities, and then we could go and train the people who worked there, and they were so excited. I remember the massage therapist specifically, just because when we would come back and she would do some things that she thought we had trained, which wasn't exactly right, because she'd kind of turned it also with her tradition, but she'd be like, is this right? Are you, and she was so excited that she was helping the kids, but they just don't have the exposure. It's not that they don't want to. I mean, there definitely is a big cultural change, like Kim was saying, that has to change, because if kids have special needs and can't walk up the steps, they can't go to school and different things like that. We have so many opportunities here with the physicians and therapies and funding, and so many opportunities here for our kids with special needs, especially, that they just don't have there. And so parents give their kids up to the orphanage because they don't think they can care for them, and they're hoping somebody will adopt them that can care for them better. And it doesn't necessarily mean they don't love their child, or it's because they just feel like they just can't afford it and they have to go to another country to work for a while. And so I think that's important to see that, because we hear of all these orphans and it is really sad, but to remember that these people feel like they're doing their best and they just don't have the resources that we have. So
yeah, that's a great reminder.
Yeah.
Yep, I would echo the kindness. Very kind people. Yeah. And in regards to what people can do, pray, number one. If they would like to follow us on social media, then we post if there are needed items or we hear of a need, we post about that. Yeah.
Oh, good. So wherever we end up posting these, we will make sure we include all the links so that people can connect, for sure.
Great.
Yeah, I would just say, I think that we've all watched, like, their determination, their ability to take not a lot and make it into something big, because they all band together. I heard, whenever we have spent time with my son's birth family, several stories of families kind of joining together in different ways to help each other out, whether that be with food. They all have gigantic gardens, so sometimes they help each other out that way, or just in being with them. I was just kind of hearing the different stories of how they really do. I think that it's a reliance. They haven't always been able to count on their government. They lived under Soviet times, and it was, things were scarce, and so they weren't able to count on some of the things that we count on, as far as like steady jobs and the ability to get goods. And so they had to rely on their friends and family for things, and that has stuck around. And it really is. And then once it is, they kind of have a stoic kind of a, you meet somebody, they seem on a bus or something, transportation, public, they don't there's not a smiling and warmth there. And then you actually start to talk to somebody and they invite you immediately, to some meal that they've cooked 15 courses, and, you're treated like you're just royalty. And they're so warm and so caring and want to just do whatever they can. So that's kind of my take. Is that I can see how they've been so successful, just because of knowing how well they do work together and band together, and make do with what small resources that they have. They put it to good use.
This really makes me want to go visit Ukraine.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
It does me too. I have this ache, when I see pictures and video, but someday. Yeah.
Well, so what I'm hearing is definitely everybody can lift Ukraine up in prayer.
Yes.
There are resources and there are times you guys are sending care packages and things over to the Ukraine. So if people want to get involved, we'll include the link and make sure that they can real time see what's needed and contribute, myself included. And then maybe one day when you guys are able to plan your pre-COVID trip and head out there, if there's anybody interested to contribute, whether it's financially or even in other material ways, we can connect them to you guys.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's our pleasure. I think you guys are absolutely the heroes in my life. And if there's anything we can do to support you guys, and there are other people in this tribe who feel a similar calling but haven't found the group, here's the group.
Thank you. You're so
so.
kind, Emily. I really appreciate
Yes,
it.
you are.
Yeah, you're very kind.
I just
and
get
inspiring.
To talk to you guys are the ones who did it all. Do you have
I really enjoyed reading your book and seeing all the different ways that you've been able to help families that you've come in touch with. It's it's the matter of doing what you can with what's right in front of you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Ooh, that's a good quote. Hold on, I forget that.
Very much so. You've always been like that, and I love that about you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And joyful.
You've inspired me so much. In fact, the 17th kid we've had in our spare room, Wayne, he's not in the book because he just moved out 2 months ago. We had him for 5 months. And you guys, that story about this thing, in fact, we talked a lot about Lance back in those days because he had a disconnect between his brain, mouth, and hand. So if we put something in his hand, he would just drop it. And then he got to a point where he could kind of hold something and his mouth would go, you could tell he wanted it, but he literally couldn't connect the mouth with the hand. And then as soon as you gave him food, he would just drop it. And then finally, over 4 months, he was able to put his hand into his mouth and feed himself something. And Minky was saying, my husband was saying, I think he was probably hit every time his hand went near his mouth or every time he tried to reach for something. So his hands have just become, don't ever move them. And we were talking about Lance and we learned a lot. We've learned a lot. I mean, Karen, you and John Michael are amazing parents. And I think Kim and Amanda are extraordinary too. I just haven't seen you guys raise kids, whereas we had the privilege of watching Karen and John Michael raising Lance and just the patience you guys have had and how you're researching and how you're finding ways to care for these kids and some of their special needs. It's extraordinary. And it's impacted us even until the last couple of months.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and we've had the opportunity to work with kids that had untreated hydrocephalus as well in Ukraine. Yeah, that had not had shunts, and we actually had a therapist here. She moved away, but she went to China and adopted a little boy that was that had unresolved hydrocephalus and brought him home, and that he's had some skull reduction surgeries and some things, and he's doing fairly well. Yeah, yes, yeah.
You're right. It's a good reminder. I don't have to go to Ukraine with you guys. If you come to China, we're right here. And we will rally, not just a tribe, we will rally an army around you guys.
It's awesome.
Yes, it is.
I can't believe an hour just went by. Seriously.
Well, maybe because we started really late because somebody forgot to show up on time. Sorry.
No, I'm so glad that we could bring you guys back together. And thank you for sharing your stories. I hope that this sheds more light on the amazing work you're doing and also on Ukraine to better understand the country and the people. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.